She was erased from history, a princess stolen as a child. But now, after years of silence, she has returned, not to claim a throne, but to burn an empire to ground. What secret did the Sun King fear so much that he buried it beneath fire and lies? This is not a tale of royalty. This is a story of rebellion, revenge, and the rise of a forgotten flame. You've never heard a fantasy like this. The rain fell in thick sheets, slapping against the marble roof of the old temple. Every drop echoed through the hollow chambers like footsteps. She stood alone, her breath fogging in the chill air, her heart drumming a rhythm she did not understand. The scent of wet stone and moss filled her lungs. Lightning tore across the sky, flashing white through the open doorway. In that instant she saw it, a figure crouched at the far end of the hall, not moving, not breathing, watching. Her fingers tightened around the silver pendant at her neck. It burned against her skin, warmer than before. A whisper followed, curling like smoke in her ears. Low, familiar, return or be rewritten. Her feet refused to move, but her eyes tracked the shadow. It slid across the floor, without a sound. Closer, closer. The torches flickered. Went out. She was in darkness. The cold hands of the floor beneath her suddenly felt like flesh. It pulsed. Alive. She staggered back. Her heel struck something soft. She looked down. A velvet slipper, embroidered in gold. Her mother's crest. But her mother had died 12 years ago. A scream built in her throat, but it had no sound. The walls of the temple began to breathe. Each stone inhaled and exhaled, as if it had lungs. Voices rose from cracks. Crying, laughing, begging. She spun around. The door was gone. In its place stood a mirror. Her reflection blinked once, then grinned. Not her grin. Teeth too many. Eyes too wide. She touched her face. The mirror touched hers too, but from the other side. It reached through the glass. Cold fingers gripped her wrist. Pulled. She screamed. The sound finally broke free. The scream echoed through nothingness. No walls. No sky. Only a swirling abyss of ash and starlight. Her body spun. Weightless. Directionless. She fell not down but inward. Images flashed around her. A battlefield soaked in crimson. A crown broken in two. A child crying in a cradle of fire. The voice returned. Clearer now. Sharper. You are not lost. You were taken. Her back hit solid ground. Stone. Warm. Breathing. She gasped. The temple was gone, replaced by a chamber of golden roots and black glass. Pillars rose around her like the bones of giants. Each surface whispered, Princess area, you were never meant to kneel. She stumbled to her feet. A pool of silver light rippled before her. In its depths she saw herself, but older, stronger, eyes lined with storms. This version of her held a blade. Its edge glowed with runes, each one pulsing like a heartbeat. The reflection spoke. You must bleed to return. Pain stabbed her ribs. Something inside was shifting. She fell to her knees. Her veins lit up, not with blood, with fire. Memories rushed in. She was 6 again, hiding under the silk-draped bed, listening to screams in the hallway, the scent of burning jasmine, the heavy boots of the invaders. Her mother's final lullaby, whispered with tears. She had not forgotten. She had been made to forget. The truth boiled inside her. They erased her past, buried her name, twisted her into silence. But now, it was waking. The chamber cracked. Roots tore from the walls. The blade shattered the pool and rose into her hand. It hummed. Alive. Hungry. The voice was hers now. They feared what I would become. A roar thundered behind her. She turned. The figure from the temple stood there. No longer a shadow. Clad in bone. Crowned with flame. Eyes like black holes. It opened its mouth. Her name fell from it like a curse. Saria. The ground split. She leapt, blade drawn. Heart burning. She was not afraid. The blade met shadow. Sparks flew, lighting the dark like falling stars. The creature screamed, not in pain, but in fury. It struck back. A gust of black wind hurled her across the chamber. She slammed into the wall. Stone cracked. Her vision swam, but she rose. Blood at her lip, fire in her eyes. The sword pulsed in her grip, faster, louder, as if it knew the battle had just begun. Why do you fight? The creature's voice scraped the air. You are forgotten. Your people are ashes. You are nothing. She laughed, low and steady. I remember everything now. With a cry, she charged. The walls wept molten gold. Roots lashed from above, slashing the void. She ducked, spun, struck. The blade tore through the creature's side. A hiss of smoke erupted, but it did not fall. Instead, it changed. Its limbs twisted, its face folded into dozens. Each one a memory she did not want. Her nursemaid's lifeless eyes, her father's bleeding crown, her own face, drowning in silence. They spoke in unison. You were always weak. Her knees buckled. Tears blurred her sight. But the pendant at her throat burned bright. It whispered, you were always more. She screamed, not in fear, but in fury. The sound shook the chamber. The creature reeled. She lunged once more, the blade now blazing white. It pierced his heart. Silence. A slow breath. A single heartbeat. Then the creature collapsed. Its body crumbled into dust. Gone. She stood alone in the ruins. But the chamber had changed. The roots now glowed with silver light. The glass melted into water, revealing a staircase. It descended deep, beneath the earth, beneath the lies. She took a step forward. Then another. Not the lost princess. Not a victim, but a spark reborn. A storm forming. A hero rising. The staircase was narrow, carved from obsidian veins and ancient stone. Each step echoed beneath her feet, like the tick of an unseen clock. The air grew warmer, thicker, laced with the scent of iron and old rain. Symbols lit up along the walls. Languages she had once spoken as a child, now returned to her tongue like an old song. Her fingers brushed them. They pulsed beneath her skin. Blood remembers. The walls whispered. The descent twisted. The air shimmered. Reality thinned. She passed 1,000 mirrors, each showing a version of herself. One with wings, one in chains, one weeping in a crown of thorns. She looked away. None of them were her. Not anymore. The staircase ended at a stone door. It stood 3 times her height, etched with seal of fire and tears. She reached for it. The pendant flared. The door shuddered. With a groan, it opened. Inside was silence. Not emptiness, but the silence of something waiting. A circle of light marked the center of the chamber. In it stood a throne, and on the throne a woman, not breathing, not sleeping, preserved. Saria stepped closer. Her heart skipped. It was her mother, pale, still, hands folded around a blade identical to her own. Tears welled in Saria's eyes. She knelt, but the light brightened. The woman's eyes snapped open. They were golden and glowing. You have returned, she said. Her voice was both thunder and wind. Saria could not speak. You were not meant to live in shadow. You were meant to rise through it. Her mother stood, alive, changed. Now listen closely, Saria. The war never ended. Saria rose to her feet. Her breath caught in her throat. The words echoed like a drumbeat in her chest. The war never ended. Her mother stepped down from the throne, feet gliding across the floor as if untouched by time. Behind her, the chamber shimmered, walls dissolving into visions, armies clashing under red skies, cities burning beneath the wings of mechanical beasts, a child carried away in smoke. You were taken to protect the bloodline, her mother said. They believed if the heir was lost, the prophecy would break. But they never understood. Blood does not forget. It waits. Saria gripped her blade tighter. The fire inside her surged. Then we fight, she said. Her mother smiled. Sad, proud, eternal. Yes, but not yet. She raised her hand. The chamber responded. The floor cracked open. A map rose from the stone, etched in glowing silver, shaped like a phoenix in flight. Super Asia, her mother whispered. Once a realm of 7 thrones, now ruled by tyrants and ghosts. Each region on the map pulsed. A voice echoed from each. A cry, a song, a scream. Each kingdom fell by betrayal. Each one holds a piece of your inheritance. Saria's eyes traced the glowing lands, the scorching north, the hollow forest, the drowned capital, the mirror fields, the sky bastion, the ashen gulf, and the final, the heart vault, marked with a sigil of chains. You must reclaim them, her mother said, not with power alone, but with truth. Saria stepped forward. The map flared and burned into her memory. Where do I begin? Her mother reached for her hand. You begin where the pain first touched you, and where they still believe you are dead. Saria's jaw tightened. The weight of those words settled on her shoulders like armor. She was no longer hidden, no longer forgotten. She was a spark walking back into fire. The chamber dimmed. The glowing map sank into floor, leaving behind silence and shadow. Only her mother remained, bathed in pale gold. You will be hunted, she said, by those who remember your name, and by those who fear it. Saria nodded. I will not run. Her mother smiled again, this time not with sorrow, but with something fierce, something ancient. She reached behind the throne and pulled out a cloth bundle. Inside lay armor, woven of star metal and phoenix silk, the crest of their bloodline blazing at its center. Then wear this, child of storm and fire. Saria took the armor. The fabric felt alive, molding to her shape, singing in her bones. When she stood again, she was transformed. No longer the lost girl, no longer the frightened shadow. She was Princess Saria of the Shattered Flame. She was the blade fate had buried, and now it was time to rise. A rumble shook the chamber. The ceiling cracked open above them. Sunlight poured through, warm and blinding. Her mother stepped back, fading into the light. You will not be alone, she whispered. Others wait in silence. Others remember. Call them. Wake them. Saria looked up. The sky was wide, wider than it had ever been in her dreams. She leapt toward it, toward the world that had stolen everything from her, toward the truth buried in its broken lands. And far above, in the clouds twisted by war and silence, the first horn of rebellion began to sound. The horn echoed across the heavens, long and low, shaking the bones of mountains. Birds scattered from charred treetops. Rivers froze mid-flow. The sky itself seemed to flinch. Somewhere beyond the eastern dunes, an old man dropped his cane. He whispered a name he had not spoken in years. In the towers of the drowned capital, the mirrors cracked. Their reflections whispered in unison. She lives. And deep within the heart vault, where time did not flow, and screams were caged in crystal, a figure stirred. It sat upon a throne of bone and wire, face hidden behind a mask of grief, hands curled like claws around a rusted crown. The horn reached this place too, and the figure trembled. She was supposed to be dead. It rasped. Chains clattered as it stood. The sound ran like lightning through the underworld. Ready the black envoys. Burn every name that still remembers. Find her. Kill her. Asterisk. Above in the sun's full blaze. Saria soared on wings of fire and wind. The ancient armor shimmered around her. Its heat did not burn her. It carried her. She looked below. The land stretched out, vast and broken. Fires in the north. Storms in the east. Cities sleeping under curses. All of them waiting. Her hand rested on her blade. It pulsed once. Then again. She heard the voice of her bloodline. Not in her mind, but in the wind. You were not born to inherit peace. You were born to create it. Ahead, the scorching north rose like a scar, a desert of glass and bone, ruled by a tyrant who drank sunlight and chained stars for sport. She leaned forward. The wind obeyed. The fire lifted, and the sky split open for the return of its lost daughter. The scorching north unfurled beneath her, a wasteland of shimmer and silence. Sunlight bled across dunes of molten sand, where shadows dared not linger. Towers of obsidian jutted from the ground like broken spears. Smoke rose from their tips, carrying the scent of burnt metal and old blood. Saria descended slowly, boots touching the cracked earth. The heat pressed against her skin like breath, not from the sun, but from something beneath the ground, something awake. The moment her foot fell, a sound rippled across the desert. Metal grinding, chains stirring. Drums. They knew she had arrived. A figure emerged from the haze. Tall, wrapped in black silk and gold bone. Eyes hidden behind a veil of flame. The Sun King awaits, it said, voice hollow. He dreams of your ashes. Saria said nothing. She reached behind her back and drew her blade. It hissed against the heat, ruined edge glowing brighter than the desert sky. I am not here to burn, she said. I am here to break the fire. The figure laughed, a sound like dry leaves crackling. Then it struck. Flame erupted from its arms, forming a whip that slashed toward her. She dodged, rolled, sand searing her palms. The whip struck the ground. The desert screamed. Glass shattered from the force. Saria leapt forward, sword raised. Her shadow followed, stretching behind her like wings. Steel met flame. The shock wave lifted dunes. She struck once. A clean vertical cut. The figure staggered, veil falling away. Its face was scorched porcelain. Eyes hollow, empty sockets filled with ash. It opened its mouth. A voice poured out, not one, but hundreds. The Sun King sees you. He remembers your scream. Saria's blade glowed. The voices hissed. The body crumbled into smoke. Silence returned, but the sky turned gold, and the drums grew louder. She turned toward the black spires of the desert's heart, toward the citadel where the tyrant burned behind walls of glass. Her next trial waited, and it would not beg to be remembered. It would demand to be feared. Saria walked forward, each step sinking into scorched sand that sizzled beneath her weight. The heat thickened, folding around her like a cloak of flame and fury. The black spires loomed larger now, rising from the desert like the ribs of a dead god. At their center, the citadel pulsed, a living heart of molten stone, crowned in smoke. She did not slow. The gates ahead, 20 feet high and carved with screaming faces, open on their own. No guards, no challenge, only an invitation. Inside, the air shimmered. The walls dripped with heat, like wax bleeding from 1,000 forgotten candles. She stepped into a hall of mirrors, not glass, but obsidian, polished so smooth it caught more than reflections. They moved as she did, but they blinked when she did not. Each mirror showed a different her, one with blood on her crown, one with wings of ash, one kneeling in chains. Whispers crawled from the walls. She will fall. She must fall. She was made to fall. Saria walked through them. The sword hummed louder. The pendant at her throat burned cold, a strange warning in the heat. At the end of the hall stood a throne, floating above a lake of fire, and seated upon it, barefoot, cloaked in light, was the Sun King. His skin glowed like bronze stretched too thin, eyes twin furnaces, hair a crown of living flame. He smiled. I dreamed of this moment, he said, his voice slow like lava. You, the orphan girl they tried to erase. He rose. The lake of fire shifted beneath him, lifting, churning. You are not your mother. You are not your throne. You are just heat pretending to be flame. Saria's blade pointed to the floor, but her eyes never wavered. I am not pretending, she said. I am remembering. The fire behind him rose, forming wings, a sword, a mouth. The Sun King laughed, and the hall became a furnace. Glass cracked, stone melted. Then remember this little spark. Even stars die screaming. He lunged. Saria braced. The firestorm hit like a war drum, roaring, blinding, alive. She dove to the side. The floor where she stood exploded, molten rock spraying like shattered suns. The heat tore at her armor. Her breath caught, throat scorched raw. Still, she rose. The Sun King hovered above the fire, sword of flame coiling in his hands like a serpent. He moved fast, too fast. A blur of light, a hiss of searing air. She barely blocked the next strike. The impact threw her across the chamber. She rolled. Sparks carved trails across her arms. Her blade clattered beside her. For a moment, everything was still, too still. Then, his voice from behind. You were a myth when I was a boy. A bedtime threat for princes like me. Saria turned. Slow, eyes locked on his. He stepped forward, flames parting around him like worshippers. I wanted to believe you had burned, he said, because if you lived, it meant my throne was stolen. She stood, blood dripping down her chin. It was... The sword flew to her hand as if summoned. She dashed forward. Steel met fire. Again and again. Sparks flew. Mirrors shattered. The throne chamber trembled beneath their fury. He struck downward, a sun crashing toward her head. She twisted, ducked, slashed upward. Her blade caught his side. Smoke burst from the wound. He snarled, voice like breaking suns. You bleed a king, but you are no queen. She pressed in. 1 strike. 2. He blocked the third. Barely. Their faces inches apart now. His breath scorched her cheek. You fear your power, he growled. No, she whispered. I fear what will become if I stop. Then she drove her blade through his chest, straight through fire, bone, and throne. The Sun King gasped. Light erupted from his eyes, from his mouth, from every crack in his skin. He reached for her, fingers trembling, not in rage, but in awe. Asterisk, you were never meant to kneel. Asterisk, he breathed. Then he shattered, a sun dying in silence, ash and flame collapsing into dust. Saria stood alone. The throne melted behind her. The mirrors cracked no more. And across the scorching north, the fire began to sleep. Ash drifted through the air like snow. Soft, silent, final. Saria stepped from the throne chamber. Her armor dimmed, her blade quiet. The sky above the scorching north had changed. No longer gold and cruel, now silver with the breath of dusk. Villagers emerged from their hiding places, eyes wide, hands raised not in fear, but in wonder. They felt the fire die. They had heard the last scream of the Sun King. A child approached her, barefoot, dust on her cheeks, clutching a cracked pendant shaped like a phoenix. Are you the flame that came back? The girl asked. Saria knelt. No, she said. I am the flame that was never gone. The crowd grew around her. Survivors, rebels, elders. They bowed. But Saria did not want their kneeling. She raised her hand. Rise. We have all survived fire. Now we rebuild from the embers. She turned to the horizon. Beyond the scorched dunes, 6 more lands waited. 6 more wounds to heal. 6 more truths to awaken. She looked once over her shoulder. The people were watching, hope in their eyes, light in their faces. For the first time in years, they believed in something more than survival. They believed in her. Saria walked into the wind, the pendant at her throat glowing with quiet strength. She was no longer just a name lost to history. She was a hero written in fire and blood. She was a return of what was forgotten. She was Super Asia's rising sun. And her story was only just beginning.